I want to welcome you for stopping by. I want to walk you through the creation of this mixed media. I had a combination of acrylic paintings, spray paint, layers of paper version. So this is pretty much a little bit longer, but in every step you will see the discovery of a new products that you can um, incorporate in your mixed media. Right now, I am selecting all the textures that I have around my house. You know, from wrapping paper, from mats, any type of texture designs that I can grab from it. What I'm doing is cutting small sections, and then I'm gonna be applying them in the canvas. The canvas has been is on prime, and I just did a color swatch of warm colors of yellow and orange in a tint of some white. So I'm applying the paint directly into this rubber mat, and what I'm gonna do just is brush it around, and whatever is seeping through the little spaces, it will be fine. And this is an old brush that I'm using, actually a brush that I use for painting some of the walls in the house. So everything gets recycled and reused and repurposed. So I paint the first side, and then I'm putting pressure. I'm turning the mat on the other side, opposite side, and I'm putting some pressure so those impressions goes in there. It doesn't matter if it are uneven. That's part of the aesthetics that I'm looking for. This particular step, I am going to apply the it's gold. It's the painted gold, and it's a brilliant gold from Design Master, and it's an old can. It has been used. Um, and I will use the rest of this paint, and voila, it's right here. um, I put the rubber mat again, and it's seeping through those spaces, and which is giving them like gilded gold in there. You can, I don't know if you can see with the reflection of the light. It's a little bit difficult. The next step I did was the tissue paper. I had painted this tissue paper separately with watercolors, and believe it or not, with also with coloring, food coloring. So you fold the tissue and wrinkle it, you know, whatever you want to do different. Just stripping off the paper. And I'm just creating strips, and some ones are long, some ones are short. Uh, Pretty much like a half an inch of width. That's what I'm putting in right now. I'm gonna get the gel. The gel that I'm using for this particular piece is made by Golden, and it is a heavy gel, semi-gloss, and it will dry transparent. It is a thick, high quality gel, so it's one of my favorite ones to use. I normally brush the I'm using an old flat brush because the gel is very rough on your bristles, so it will ruin the brush. It will never go back to the same, doesn't matter how much you are rinsing it off. So I'm using an old brush, and I'm applying the gel on top and then in the back, and then adding it to the canvas, and then pretty much brushing on the edges. And what I like to do is the most embedded is the paper, the tissue paper and the canvas, I think it creates a more like a unique, like a painterly style. So that's what I'm going after. I know I will be applying other thickness of papers, so it's gonna create some dimension there. But for the first layer, I'm using pretty much as flatter as can be, and it will incorporate into the canvas. It almost looks like a painted on the canvas once that is dry. And the tissue paper is always, fun to play with, but it will rip sometimes. If that happens, just go with the flow, apply it in another piece, and the movement of the piece will let you know where that piece can be incorporated. So always have fun and enjoy the process, as it says. When I'm applying the gel, if the piece of paper is thicker, I will probably apply it on the, I most likely applied it on the canvas as well. So I will apply it on the piece, front and back, and then on the canvas to make a good to make a good adhesion. And then the reason that I apply, once that is applied and I go around the edges, if you notice, I go around the edges, is so it doesn't buckle when it's drying up, or you get those tiny little ripples or mountains around the edge. So it just creates a more professional finish. Like in this particular corner, you notice how it joined in half, and instead of fighting it, I just applied it as it is, and it looks a little bit darker, which gives a more dimension on that area. So just go with the flow on especially applying the tissue paper. Don't get frustrated or too into one idea as you move along, especially with the mixed media. I'm grabbing the yellow paper now, the tissue, colored tissue, and I'm seeing where I'm gonna place it first. And I had the idea to draw my hand and then incorporate that shape into the canvas. However, after I went through the process, the idea morphed because it ripped. So it's still, I was content with the position of it, but like I said, it's a moving it's a working process. So you will be changing, you will be morphing your idea from one into the other, especially with abstract art and mixed media. Every single piece is safe because I actually have done greeting cards with leftovers, and even with the tiny itty bitty pieces, they can give you a sparkle of color in your work. You will see later on the next colors that I'm applying, how I'm applying a small little confetti size pieces of color for the canvas. So that was my original idea, to put it in that corner on the left side, top corner, and I kind of liked it, and I thought, okay, well, that's what it's going to go. But by the time I applied the gel, even though that I was soft, I knew there was a risk with the shape of the fingers, and I was not wrong. The one piece came up, and I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and add it in this corner. So at this point, I knew it was not going to make it to the top. So I says, okay, let's put it in here. So that's where the shape, the subliminal shape is going. I just want to make sure that every single edge is adhered to the canvas. Something happened there that it was no creating a good bounce, so I have to lift it up and then go back then to applying more gel and then adhering it in another spot so it doesn't crinkle. And it it's dependent on your taste. The tissue paper looks beautiful, also crinkle. At this particular project, I wanted it a stretch because I was looking some of that white and orangey spaces that this particular tissue paper had, which it matched the background. Now to mellow down the pungent green color on that corner, I'm layering the yellow color over there. And I will bring some of that green color in the opposite corner just to get some balance there. You might be questioning, what is the purpose then to put all that gold and all that um, texture in the background if it is going to be covered. That is the fun part on the mixed media, especially because you have bleeding segments on that. Like at this tissue paper, will pick up the texture from the bottom, and then the gold also will be visible. This is so translucent once that is applied with the gel. I'm just going around making sure that all those edges are not going to be popping up. And if they do, or you see that it is coming up, don't be afraid to lift it carefully and then just apply more gel on it, especially on the edges, to make a good bound. I'm proceeding now with the cool colors. This tissue paper has blue and purple mainly. you can see that you can overlap, tissue paper, one color over another one, and the colors from the back start bleeding in a different in a different tone. So it's always fun to see that. As you go along in your mixed media, you're going to see some areas that you want to cover, other ones that you want to preserve, and that's what you pretty much, that's the playtime. That's what you um, have to balance there. What are you going to leave overlay, and what is what you're going to see exposed to the public to see. Don't be afraid to experiment with different shapes, long ones, thick ones, different geometrical shapes, or any kind of silhouettes or anything that you want with this technique is really really fun. So what I'm applying next is the coarse molding paste, which is made by Golden, and it has a grainy texture. So I'm going to apply some paint as well, which is the bleach white. this molding paste, it has like a sandy ingredients in it, so it will create like a grainy texture whatever you are applying it on. So I'm applying it randomly, and just because it has the lighter color, it just gives them a little bit more of highlight on that canvas. The next step that I'm doing is sorting the vintage papers. I knew I wanted to incorporate some of my vintage papers in there. So I select the ones that I want, and I made some of these ones, and I just keep, I save them for later use. I have some watercolors and other textures, some napkin and gesso. So I'll show you if, as we go along with other videos, how to make this type of papers. So I finally got my two designs, the flower and the ornates, and I'm going to apply the coat of gel very generously, vertical, horizontal, and vertical, three coats with the flat brush and the same golden gloss gel, which is very versatile. Especially in thicker vintage papers, you're going to have different thickness, so you want to make sure that you are generous in applying the coat. Otherwise, when it's disintegrated in the water, you will have holes in that area and it will come apart, so you won't have a full sheet, or at least a partial sheet to use on your art. I'm working on the canvas again, and I'm gonna bring that green color that it is on the left corner to the opposite corner with a little bit of green tissue as well, because it's creating a hard view in that area. So I want to make sure that it flows when, we're looking at this piece, that is not only staying in that green, in those green corners. And how do I do that? Is just bringing a little bit of that corner, those colors. I bring some of those colors in the opposite side. The tissue paper, and it's easier to go crazy with coloring the tissue paper, but it will go a long ways. It's really fun to work with, and it will give you so many different effects that you will be surprised and mesmerized. So it's an old technique. It's really fun to use, and I'm always doing it, using it with my mixed media. The paste, the grainy quartz paste is already dry, so that's what I'm doing. The the next step on adding more tissue paper at this stage. So, but it is already dry, so all those white strokes that you see in there are like a sandy texture. Always being careful not to rip off the tissue. As you can see there, it doesn't take long. It's very delicate. So the less minimum pressure that you apply on the tissue, that's a lot. Um, it will help in that situation. I love this handmade paper. This is a it's a weaved paper, and it's just the natural fibers. It's so soft, almost like cotton. And once that it is applied into the canvas, you will see how it integrates as part of the. It's like a its own brush strokes. It's really really fun. You can find all kinds of papers and handmade paper stores online, and it's always a good idea to experiment because every paper, which when especially when it is handmade, it will behave completely different. And I apply it the same way. I'm just a little bit more cautious because I know it's very very delicate. Is I think it feels more frail than the tissue paper itself, and it has a lot of natural fibers in there. So but once that it is on the canvas, it just merge into it, the design so nicely. And I'm only using a few strips just to give that texture visual. Is really 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 fun. I have this paper as a white, but I'm sure that if you apply watercolor on a spray bottle and then just dyed it, you can go ahead and tint it as well. So it's up to you where your imagination takes you. But I wanted to preserve it white for this, for future uses. So but you can pretty much experiment with it. It's almost like a net, like a weave net, and very very delicate. Once that is applied, like I said, it just melts into the rest of the painting. And once that is dry, it looks like it probably was painted on, and instead of a tissue paper or handmade paper on there. The next portion is out of frame, but I'm doing it horizontal layers there and on the bottom. So At this point, I'm gonna let the painting rest, get dry, and so that will give me a little bit more freedom, so I don't, pull back some of the paper, because if I try to layer more papers at this particular time, I run the risk of pulling some of that paper out. I am going to choose now an earthy color, which is like a rustic brown or umber. And I'm just cutting small, tiny, itty bitty pieces, like, little confetti sections in there, and I'm going to scatter around the canvas. This is also handmade paper, and it has fibers embedded in it. And it almost has the same finishing that the white weaved net that I just applied prior. And it is really, really soft. Once that you apply the gel on it, it just becomes very um, manageable. It becomes very almost like a liquidy too on the fiber. It's very, very very fun to embed on the pieces, because it doesn't create that much thickness. It just goes into the ones that you already it fuses into the ones that you are already having first on the first layers. Part of the fun of the mixed media is, and the challenge can be to layer the papers, without creating that thickness and paper clipping visual style, which it can be a little bit of the distracting at times. You want the piece to flow in harmony and, blend as much as can. At least that's what the goal should be. But also, it's also fun and experimenting. So it's either way. I just This is my preference, and that's what I'm trying to, see what combinations of papers are gonna go there. And that's why I do the skins, so they don't give me that much thickness on the final piece. I'm adding some of the vintage napkins. These are pieces that I have collected through the years, and I find tiny little spaces that, the art piece is talking to me, and I just go ahead and apply the little treasures on them. That green top corner is too strong still, so I'm trying to blend it in with more colors from the background and overlay on top of those green strips that I have there. It's becoming a little bit more challenging now because remember that we have the coarse texture now, and now I really want to make sure, that I have enough grip with the gel, because if I leave some air on there or I don't apply the gel, and it will pull out, it will pop up, the tissue will, as it dries, it will shrink and it will just, cause some air pockets, which are not pleasant to the side. So as this is something to take into consideration if you are applying other type of medium, like the coarse paste or any other paste, and you are still want to do decoupage on them, you need to make sure that you are generous with your gel and overlaying it so it has a good adhesion around. I'm gonna let this piece rest and I'll come back with my skins. Remember, they had the 3 coats already of the gel on it, and they are nice and dry, and they dry transparent. You can see some texture where the light is hitting, but they are transparent now. This will be actually the 3rd coat. This is the 3rd coat of these papers, and they are completely dry, so I'm applying a 3rd coat now. And I'm going in the opposite brush strokes. So the second one was vertical, and this one will be horizontal. I want to make sure that I get a good coverage and the gel is all around the paper, because it will be submerged in water. So I'm back to the canvas, and everything is completely dry right now. So what I'm doing right now is applying some drops of watercolor, and I'm gonna just let it dry. The ones that I apply with an eyedropper, I move the piece around just to get it flow. Moving it around to create an organic patterns on a free form. couple more drops around. It is almost on the same swatch of the cool colors, you know, the blue and the purple color. So it harmonizes us on the color. Okay, then we are using this. I'm using this palette. I smear some paint in there, and I'm using the warm colors. I'm using a little bit of white. This is the titanium white, and then yellow and some orange. And I will list all the supplies and paints in the description, so make sure that you check it out. So now I'm mixing it with my fancy dandy, old credit card, and I'm gonna apply that onto some areas. And I'm using just paint on the edge, and then just go one stroke down or up, so to create some texture. And remember, because we have the coarse paste, it will create some resistance in some areas, making that card jump, which creates a really nice effect. Once that you decide to, that you're happy with that color, I pretty much went and I got the raw umber and applied it to that same mixture, so I can get a little bit darker tones. And I'm just mixing it really nice, and with the whatever remaining painting that I have. And the challenge with the acrylic is, if I'm not using any extender or anything else, which I'm not, it dries pretty fast, especially with the lights. so I have to work fast. And those are just a small little sections of color that I wanted to bring in, and it matches with the rust paper, handmade paper that is there as well. And I missed to record the part when I put the fuchsia color, the pink media, but it was done on the same way, just splatter around, and to bring a little bit more on the balance of the colors. You can still appreciate the gold. I haven't covered the entire, the main gold, the spray paint that we did at the beginning, that I did at the beginning of the painting, so which I'm very happy with it. And I will probably spray it a little bit at the end, I don't know yet, so we will see as the piece is coming along. I have different spatulas and different knives in here that it helps me to create different textures, and I would recommend you to play with them. I really like the ones of metal because it has more spring, and instead of the plastic ones. The plastic ones, I tend to be too rough with them and I crack them. So my preferences are the ones, the old-fashioned, the metal ones. And it's just depend how often you use them. I use them often, quite often. So for me, these ones are the ones that they work the best. Like I said prior, I'm gonna add all the list of the supplies that I use, the materials that I use, as much as possible, especially on the old, the handmade papers. They're old papers, but there are some stores that you can go ahead and get the handmade papers and pieces and small pieces, or by sheets, according to your needs or how often you're going to use them. But honestly, it will go long ways, and especially if you are mixing it or combining them with the tissue paper, is you can get a really nice pieces with this technique. I may have too much paint on this particular color. I don't want to put more rustic brown in there. So the question is always, okay, what do I do? I'm wasting all that paint and everything. So don't be afraid to reuse that as a base or background for the next painting. And that's what I have. I have an extra canvas, and I want to be using any extra paint. I just, um, put it in there, and you don't waste your expensive paint. So I'm gonna add a little bit more of the yellow and mix it up to bring it a little bit different tones in certain areas, and it's just your own personal taste at this point. Like I mentioned before, it's like okay, when do we stop? And that is the challenge. When do we stop? The piece will tell you. I'm moving it aside so you can see. Hopefully, you can see. It's very hard to see what the through the camera, but you can. They're building. The layers are building up now. Okay, now I have extra paint, and I'm still adding a little bit more there of the yellow to the palette. So I changed positions, from on the table with the painting on the table, and then I stand it up to see where else it might need a little bit of punch of color. Okay, now is the time to fill a dish with water, just natural temperature, regular temperature, or a little bit of warm. Not much because you don't want the paper to disintegrate pretty fast and get gooey on the paste, on the gel, even though that is already dry. So normal temperature will be it, and the dish is at least 2 inches a dip, and I'm just submerging the paper in there, both sheets in there, and the purpose is to leave them rest and for a couple hours, at least 1 hour, and you come and check the back of the paper and see if it is disintegrating, and it should be able to roll away from your fingers. When you pass the fingers in a circular motion, they should be able to come up that white paper in the back area, and then you are going to be left with the skin. So this dish is going to set aside, and then we will go ahead and check how is it doing. You are going to notice that the gel, the coating is turning white, but or haze, on a haze color, but it will actually dry clear once it is dry. Right now, because it's all wet, it is submerged in water, it's turning like a haze texture, but it won't stay like that. And especially if you let it dry between coats, you should have a clear skin. So now you can see that I'm with my fingers gently, I'm rolling the paper away from the gel texture, and what it is left in there, that's what we call the skin, and it is translucent. You can pick up some textures from the backgrounds, whatever you're gonna put it in. So it's an old technique. I was introduced this technique with an old friend of mine, so this was the old-fashioned way. It is a little bit time consuming. You just want to make sure that you take your time and patience, because if you become a little bit impatient, you can split the skin, and you can still use the small pieces. But if you are aiming for a larger sheet, and then you should take your time. Once that you have it all nice and clean, you let it dry, and that haze on the front, it will go away. The skins are now dry, and you can see that the white haze already clear up. I'm turning this one. You see I didn't put that much gel in one side, and that's why you see missing areas, which is still, it's good. It's just a different look. So it still needs to be dry. You can see some white areas in there. So if you don't let it dry and you apply a second coat, then it will have stripes of white gel in there. So that's what is recommendable, to leave it dry, let it dry completely before applying the second and third coat. But they are ready to use. What is holding the image is the pure gel in the image. All the paper is pretty much gone. It's all washed up and rubbed off with the water. Now what I'm doing is applying painter's tape. Painter's tape is next, and I just want to make some random images, some lines, and some swirly lines in there, some coily roads in there. You can use any type of tape that it has mild tacky touch, like even washi paper. The washi tapes, the washi tapes is they're slender, and you can create fine shapes and patterns with that. You can use any type of like I said, tape, painter's tape, and do any kind of shapes or figurines on it, silhouettes, anything that your imagination calls you for. I am taking particular caution in having the edges attached to the canvas, so I'm going to apply some paint with the large plastic palette that I have, the acrylic palette, and I don't want paint to go underneath, so I want to make sure that those whatever shapes or lines that I'm putting in there, they kind of escape that painting coat in there. You can use also the palettes if you wish to once that you put your tape lines and or patterns. So I'm using a variety of brands in here on the painting knives. One is Blick, the other one is Playful Arc One Stroke, and the Artist Love. And they are the metal style because it has more springy when you are applying it onto the canvas, and versus the ones that are plastic. So it's my personal preferences, but you can use whatever you have around in your studio. Now I'm going back with the acrylic paints, and I'm applying few lines in there on the acrylic palette that I have from the bleach white, and then yellow, and then red and orange. All the descriptions, all the tones that I've been using are going to be in the description, so you may want to check that out after you see this video, so you can have that same combination if you decide to do something similar. And with that big plastic palette, I'm just going around the tape, on top of the tape, and that's what I want to make sure that the edges were adhere, so they won't seep through paint, and they will just leave that silhouette on there. So that was the purpose that I was the finish that I was looking for. So once I'm done with that, I just go with the palette knives, and then just do the the touches that the canvas calls me for. And from the vintage paper, there is like a royal blue tone, like a jewel blue that I really like. and I'm gonna use some of that to punch some little colors around the canvas, because I'm gonna be applying the paper, but I wanted to also to bring that color in other areas as well. So I got something similar, and I'm gonna go ahead and use that in combination when I apply the color, the paper on there, collage the paper, it will just bring those sparkles around. Okay, you let it dry, let everything dry before removing the strips of tape. Otherwise, it will pull your painting off the canvas, and you don't want that to happen. So carefully making sure that everything is dry around, you just remove the tape, and pretty much is going to the next step. Now it's time to apply the skins that we just made, and I'm just cutting in small pieces first and trying to place them around the canvas to see where they're gonna make more harmony with the design. In this process, pretty much is up to your creativity. If, like I said before, you can do all kinds of skins. You can try the Xerox copies and some old magazines and vintage magazines, any gift wrap paper that you have. You can try, the thrift shop, Salvation Armies, any place that you may find some kind of old books as well. You can do skins from the old books. The transparency of the lettering will, blend with the backgrounds that you put it on. So it's really nice effect, and the is a endless reach with creativity that you can apply on this specific technique. So. And we use the same process. We're going to use the gloss, the gel, semi gloss from Golden. It is the gel that it is high quality. So the same that we've been decoupaging with is strong enough, especially for this particular paper that I have, that it is texture is actually embossed, and it has a golden gilt outlines. It's really, really nice. Um, I'm sorry if you can see it from the camera. So, but it is texture. And then I do have some printed napkins, so decorated decorative napkins in there that I'm going to be using. And you need to remove the 1 or 2 coats of extra paper that sometimes these napkins have. So you remove those thin tissues, and then you just keep the print. With the napkins and doing the decoupage, you have to be super, super careful, and making sure that it won't rip. Some ripping will occur, and you just don't be discouraged. Just continue on trying to incorporate that in your creativity in your final design. Now I'm applying the napkins. I have to separate this particular napkin has two plies, two tissue backgrounds. So I'm just leaving the area that it is printed, and it's super delicate. So I have to be very, very careful. And I'm just free tearing it around the some of the images that I want to apply in the canvas. And then with very soft brush strokes, I'm gonna go ahead and apply the gel on top of it. I think I will probably just do the brush on the gel on the canvas and then laying carefully the napkin, because if I'm just double thinking in here, if I apply it under on top of the napkin and then brush it on the back, is gonna disintegrate. It's really, really delicate. And some of the napkins that you will see, especially old vintage napkins, that they have beautiful, gorgeous designs that you can incorporate in your mixed media art, but you just have to be very careful to be able to save the design that it is in the napkin. And if it turns, you can just always improvise and add a secondary layer in there, and just as it is, your creativity just keeps morphing as you go, especially in this type of mixed media art. So I put a little bit of gel on the canvas, and then I carefully from the center up to the edges, making it as smooth so it doesn't buckle or get some air while it dries. So it's just the same process that we've been doing with the decoupage, just making sure that all those edges are properly adhered onto the canvas. Okay, so after seeing the piece from different angles, I'm gonna go ahead and apply some outlines, or drop shadows around the edges, and just few areas where the shapes popped onto me. And I do this, and from the different angles I rotate the canvas and I see it from upside down, which also helps your brain to see the perspective in a different way. And we're almost up to the end now. We're gonna apply some tint around as well. And the brush that I'm using for the outlines is an outline brush. Actually, it's very, very thin, and you can easily create some lines, curvy lines, and any texture that you want on the edges or so, on top of the papers, which I have done in a couple sections in here as well. Like I said, I'm not putting anything specific because I wanted to continue to be an abstract mixed media, and it's just subtle images that I am outlining without, any representation or so of a specific shape or form. It's up to the viewer to decide on that. And now I'm applying from the Golden brand. It's satin glazing liquid, and it's a slow dry, and it's an extender for acrylic colors. And you can mix any color that you want on with it, and it will just give them a little clear, translucent layer on your canvas. Because I wanted some of the gold to remain in the front, I'm gonna just do the same technique that I did at the beginning to grab the mat, the rubber mats that I have, and then just spray a little bit of the golden paint in there. Actually, with the brush is the old brush that I had, and you can see that it gives him like a translucent white, or any color that you want to mix. It will just look watery, and it does take a while to dry. probably around, I would say, 35 minutes to an hour, depending on the weather. I don't know if you can see the gilded finish in there, but it looks nice on the, because it brings the old fashioned paper that I had skin, and then we had the gold on the bottom, and then now on the top, so it creates a dimensional texture on that, in that section. And I go over more outlines after the flow mixture is dry. So that pretty much is gonna be the last stage on it. It's just there's a few shapes in here that I want to preserve. That's the only reason I'm doing it. But it is up to the artist's discretion what is what you want to, preserve, or if you want to go back on it or not. So up to the creative mind. Now we need to finish the edges because it's gonna be hang in a gallery without no frame. So the edges have to be properly painted. So I'm choosing black, and all around one the edges is I mean, you can tape the edges and then paint. I do a couple coats, and then I preserve it with the matte satin, the satin spray coat. And you can use matte, satin, or gloss, whatever your preference is. I do 3 coats on that one in a different horizontal, vertical, and then back horizontal. So I do 3 coats, but you can do more or less according to your taste. I hope this tutorial was useful for you, that you got some great ideas to implement into your art. Not to be shy, not to be afraid to try a mixed media, to try different art supplies, and then go beyond the boundaries and see what it comes up from your own creative hands. But don't feel like you must follow a certain protocol, because it is not. It is going to be your piece. It's going to be your art in the expression of your own creativity. This is just an example of the process that I did with this particular piece. So it has several layers. It has dry now. You can see there the weave paper that I like so much. It just looks like a brush strokes. Really, really fun. This piece, it has different elements that I did apply, like layering tissue paper, creating the tissue paper, layering, using the gel gloss, and then to create skins from vintage paper, how to peel up the skins, and then creating some textures with the ground texture, and tinted that ground texture and put it into the canvas. So the whole process is fun and elaborated at some point, but it is for you to give you an overview of how you can apply this in a mixed media, and then hopefully you get some little gems of knowledge and apply it for your next art. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for stopping by. Remember to subscribe, like, comment. I keep bringing more material like this for your enjoyment. Thank you. Till the next one.